Hello guys, and welcome to a longer video update of my reef tank. In today's video I'm going to be giving you a full tour of all the equipment I use on the system, as well as a quick update on the livestock. And I'm going to show you that reefing doesn't have to be as expensive as everybody thinks for the initial. I mean, if you want, it can be very expensive, but if you want to do it on a budget, it is possible. So starting up top, we have a full spectrum LED light. This is a cheap Chinese one, built-in timer, very good light. Costs £100. On top of the tank, we have a plastic lid that I made myself out of a greenhouse roof, just thin plastic sheet to slow down the evaporation. So this is what we got up top. Now in the tank, as you can see, everybody is doing very well. Now, one thing I would like to mention is my pulsing Xenia. I am going to start to frag it and to sell it UK wide. So if this is something you're interested in purchasing, please go over to my Instagram account, Tank of Salt, and send me a message or leave a comment down below and I'll get in touch with you. But I'm interested in fragging this and selling it to UK hobbyists. As you can see, the stuff, you don't need a lot of this, it just absolutely grows wild. I've got some over here as well with some sponge underneath. And I've got some over here in a bit of a higher flow area. And the stuff just grows and grows and grows. So it's good, but I need to slow it down a bit, which is why I would like to start fragging it off. So again, if you're interested, Instagram account Tank of Salt, drop me a message on there, or leave a comment in the description down below. Moving away across, I have over here this frog spawn coral. This is fairly new. I think I put it in about 4 or 5 months ago. When I initially added it, I didn't have this big coral here. But as you can see, 1, 2 of the initial 3 heads on the coral died. I'm not sure why that is. The 3rd head seems to be doing very well, no problems. But the first 2 heads did die. Everyone else is doing very well. Interesting fact, this coral you can see here, zoas, these were I never introduced these into the tank. I got this piece of live rock here was from a friend, and when I first had it, there were no corals on it. It was in the tank for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then 1 head appeared, 2 heads, and then it's just multiplied and multiplied. And as you can see, it's growing and growing and growing, which is fantastic. I think it looks quite nice. Feather duster's still doing well. And like I say, there's some really cool sponge starting to grow underneath there, which is always interesting. What I find is every time you look at this tank, you see something different, which is what I love about it. At the back, we have a single power head. It's a Jacob power head, or Jacob wave maker. I believe this was about £60. I had the other one, the one that went across here, the long gyro one, but I ended up taking that out because it was just too much flow for this tank. It was too big. But yeah, this single power head's more than enough, and this guy cost me, I think, £60. So that's it for the main display. So if we make the way down to the sun, my dog wants to go in there. So I put my light on because it's quite dark down here. I don't have a light under here. But as you can see, I've got my main overflow there going into a filter sock, as well as my emergency overflow just trickling a little bit of water. Now that's to keep the overflow nice and silent. Then what happens is it comes in through the filter sock into this area here where I have my skimmer. This is just a cheap hang-on skimmer. I think this was about £90 as well, a Bubble Magnus skimmer. And you can see it does a great job, a nice dark skim. I don't run a wet skim because, to be honest with you, I didn't even want to put a skimmer in there, but after I put this guy in and I seen the amount of gunk it was removing, it's hard not to have one in there. You can just see it at the back there, that's a filter sock, but a very mesh coarse filter socket. It's not a fine filter sock. So inside that guy, and if you can see, I have some carbon. So I don't run a carbon reactor, I have that inside of the filter sock. I have a sponge down there just for a bit of biological surface area, and you'll see I also have 2 pumps. So I have 1 pump there and 1 pump there. These are just cheap eBay pumps, probably £10 each. Now the first of the 2 pumps pumps the water into this guy here. Now this is something I don't see on a lot of fish tanks anymore, well, marine tanks, and this is a sand reactor. So as we all know, bacteria that grows in the fish tank needs a surface to live on. What happens is the water gets pushed through the sand reactor, causing the sand to sort of dance around, as you can just see. What happens is it bangs together and the older bacteria falls off, leaving the newer bacteria to grow and thrive. So yeah, it's technically it's a bacteria house, and it's doing a great job. But you don't see a lot of people running these. Normally people don't really run sand filters on marine tanks, but I thought I'd give it a go. It's doing a good job, and I think this reactor as well, quite a cheap one from eBay. I think this was £45. The only problem I have had originally, I wanted it on the side here where I've got this room, because it's a hang-on reactor, as you can see there, but it does leak, so be cautious if you're buying a cheap reactor and you're planning on having it outside the tank. Just be wary if you're buying a cheap one, they can leak. Well, this one does anyway. And I'll come back to what the second pump does in just a moment. So back to this side, I have my 2 auto top off floats. So I have 1 there and I have 1 just there. So 1 is the primary and 1 is a backup, just in case a snail or anything gets on the primary one. I have a heater right down the bottom there, you might just be able to make out. And I have a cheap return pump at the back there. I've had this return pump, like I say, for nearly a year. I think this one, for 2 of these, cost me £20 for 2, and I've had no issues with it. I do, however, I'll explain to you why I don't have an expensive one on there. Now, a lot of people say, oh, you need an expensive one, because the problem is if you're out, then your tank will die and rah rah rah. But there is enough, oh, my lights have changed to blue. But there is enough beneficial bacteria, as long as that wave maker continues to blow and keeps the water flowing, there's enough beneficial bacteria in there to keep the fish alive for a few hours while I'm out. I mean, I'm normally at work for 8 hours or whatever. They will be fine. They do not need that sun to keep them alive, as long as that power head's still going. In terms of the bacteria in the sump, like you can see, I don't have a lot of biological bacteria down there. But I do have that second pump we were talking about. Now that second pump pumps water through that hose there and behind my stand. Okay, it goes behind my stand, down here, as you can see, comes up, goes through a UV sterilizer. Sorry, it's a bit of a mess behind there, but through a UV sterilizer, follow the pipe all the way to here, where it enters my refugium. Now this is just an old tank I had, and I decided why not make a big refugium for my tank. So all I did, I took the tank, I painted the back white to reflect the light a little bit better. I drilled a hole in the back of the tank there, as you can see. Now if anyone has never drilled glass before, I promise you it's very, very, very easy. I'm not very good at DIY stuff, but I promise you, just run a hose pipe over it, go nice and slow, and you'll have no problems at all. Now inside here, I have lots more live rock, a coarse sand bed, and I have 2 types of algae at the minute growing in here. So I have Caulerpa, which I'm also selling, so if you're interested in purchasing some Caulerpa, again, drop me a message down below or hit me up on Instagram at Tank of Salt. And I have some algae, oh, my mind's gone dead, Cheeto algae over here. Now this stuff, this doesn't seem to grow very fast, this Cheeto. I put this in at the same time in this display refugium as the Caulerpa, and as you can see, the Caulerpa's just gone wild. It was a bit smaller, the Cheeto's growing, just not very fast. And then right at the back over here, I have another heater just to keep the water temperature. I have the inlet of the water flow just outside of the surface of the water in case of a power cut, so it doesn't drain this tank. And then it flows through there. There's lots of critters in there, copepods, amphipods, snails. It goes through some more live rock I've got over here, which I've made a little barrier just to stop any algae getting through. Then I've got a screen on here to stop anything getting sucked down the pipe. It goes through the overflow, around the back of my tank, and back through this big pipe you can see here, and back into my sump. So they're the three main methods I use: the skimmer, the reactor, and the refugium. I use to keep my nitrates and phosphates down low. I do water changes. I don't do lots and lots of water changes. I do a water change maybe every 3 or 4 weeks, and it seems to keep everything where I want it. And I'll be honest with you, the main reason I do my water changes is not because of phosphates. It's, oh, that looks horrible on camera, this blue. It's because the trace elements that your corals need to grow are obviously removed over time. Now, I don't dose anything in this tank. The only thing I do dose is calquasa, and that goes just in here. That's my auto top off, hid away there inside a box. So I do put calquasa inside there, and that's it. So I do some water changes just to help any of the trace elements for the tank. If you have any comments, any questions, please let me know. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, let me know that you enjoyed it. And like I say, if you're interested in any Caulerpa or any pulsing xenia, drop me a message or hit me up on Instagram, Tank Assault, and I'll be sure to get back to you. That is UK only though. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, happy reefing.